Vandal Blade is one of those ships that everyone kind of aspires to, but then when they get it, they think, do I really need this? It is a ship at its current value at 275 USD, I feel is a little overpriced, but it is a collectible. This is a ship that is a replica of what we see from the enemy Vandal ships, and it should be noted that it is a light fighter. Have modest expectations of what its capabilities are, unless you are like a light fighter savant or something. That being said, an organization having one of these would be handy to have around because it gives your pilots a chance to experience what it's going to be like to fight against the Vandal directly. It is a humanized version of a Vandal ship, so it is going to be as close as possible, while still being humanly piloted, to seeing what the Vandal are up to. This is made by the company Asperia, and it's truly a unique vessel, but it is extremely expensive and dear for what it costs, compared to its actual value. On to the Banu Defender. Now, the Banu Defender is very interesting to me because it has 2 seats, but it can be piloted by one person pretty comfortably. So this is the great kind of ship that if you're by yourself a lot and you're looking for a medium to heavy fighter class ship that can pack a lot of damage and can take a few hits, this crab ship is really fun. When it lands, it kind of has like a crab-like aggressive stance, and the staircase in the middle is pretty accommodating actually for box runs and other things like that, where you can do some extra things other than just fighting with this thing. Also, it is the mate to the Banu Merchantman. So in the future, if you intend to earn that in-game or pick it up later, or an org mate has one, you may want to look pretty hard at the Defender, because it is a ship that'll actually work symbiotically with that type of vessel. Once again, the Banu Defender can fit other ships, but the Defender is said to have like some type of tangible link that is a bonus if it's working around a merchantman. The CIG has not yet committed to or explained what that exactly is. But the Defender has 2 cockpits. You can see each other from the cockpits. They're left and right if you're looking at the center of the ship. And basically the primary seat is on the left side of the staircase, and on the right is the second seat, the co-pilot seat, which has the usual type of systems that the co-pilot can operate to assist and take a little bit of the load off of the pilot. Also, it has beds, which is a nice touch for a ship of this size. And I would honestly look hard at this if you like the alien stylings, you think this ship just catches your eye in general, or you've invested in the Banu Merchantman kind of cycle, and you're looking for something to put inside its hangar later on. This is a wonderful ship. It is a loaner for the Banu Merchantman, so keep that in mind. So in the short term, if you already have a BMM kind of sitting around, or you have a CCU ready, you might want to consider applying that CCU, and then you'll have this to fly. There is some cool paints we're going to go into later for the Defender, but I strongly feel that this ship is still a fighter. It's just a very capable, beautiful one. So keep that in mind, that it does have its limitations. It can do smaller missions, and it can do combat missions with your friends. So keep this in mind, though. It is still a fighter. On to yet another fighter, the Khartu-Al. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Every time I tried some of these more interesting alien ships, some folks wonderfully remind me what's going on with them. This has a lot like the Railen, like this kind of spread out thruster system, where it has 4 different independent thrusters. And Apoa in general has a lot of links between the aliens and the humans, unlike like the replica Blade and the Glaive and other types of ships like that were on the side of the Vandal and the made as replicas. The Khartu-Al is made for humans. The dash owl is the signifier of it's the human variant, and it doesn't feel as like unwelcome is the word I would use. You kind of like crawl into some of the Vandal ships, whereas the Khartu-Al, at least based on what we've seen, it is more of a cockpit, so to speak. So I welcome that. I also think this is a great ship if you like that style of thrusters that can engage in different directions, kind of variable your directions of your main thrusters a little bit more than usual, a lot like the Railen will eventually be. So this ship interests me greatly. It is still a light fighter, so we're still in the fighter category, but at 170 USD price point, it's not too bad. for an alien ship. There's always going to be something called the alien tax. And on to the Banu Merchantman. The Merchantman is at 600 USD, which I think will thrill many and that already have it, and not thrill people looking to get into the Banu Merchantman cycle. I would say that this ship probably still has about 300 USD headroom by the time it's finally out the door and live. But if you pick the ship up for 250, or you had an easy CCU cycle to it, or 350, congratulations. You have a ton of value right there. That being said, I think this is more of a topic for those who already have this ship. Just a quick mention here. Do not do something like upgrade it to a Hammerhead, or upgrade it to a Perseus or something, because this ship has quasi-capital capabilities, or capital, depending on who you ask, that those ships do not. You know, this ship has medical, this ship has a whole mall inside of it, and has an incredible amount of storage space. Now, I'm not going to comment on the SCU, because we're about to hit the cargo refactor, and I'm sure this ship's cargo will kind of be changed slightly in that world. Interestingly, if you're looking at the store page, the picture there is concept art from a while ago, and it was mentioned by the CIG art and ship teams and stuff when they were having a honest conversation about this last year, about how funny they thought it was that it looked like it was destroying a mountain with that low fin that has been reduced a little bit while it's flying. Also, this ship is meant to fit on large ship pads, last we heard. The wings fold inwards, and the ship is styled in a way where it can just fit on those pads. This ship is very at home on the ground, where it can, or on a station's pad, where it can kind of deploy the long staircase and also be able to offload and onload cargo from its hover style alien tech elevator system that grav levs to the ground with a large pad. And then there's gantries inside, these cranes on the ceiling of the cargo area that allow it to move. And in the approximations, they showed vehicles. So if you're curious, that's how you get vehicles onto the Banu Merchantman. And you can load the cargo area, inferring from that picture of a cyclone and a human on that cargo when we saw it last year. You can fit vehicles inside that cargo area, obviously foregoing the cargo space if you were transporting a bunch of vehicles, or some combination there of the two. So this ship is very desirable now. It is very expensive. There is a war bond deal on this ship that I kind of feel like I should mention, if the page would load. Okay, or not. The page is not, the site is running extremely slow. There's a lot of people hitting it right now as of recording. Okay, on to the Nox. The Nox is got a 45 USD price point. It is a flying motorcycle. Understand it is a floating motorcycle. If you have a MPUF cargo and you're looking for something to upgrade to, this might be a nice little touch. If you don't want, remember both of them don't have jump drives. I kind of compare the two. It is a vehicle that you can use on the ground. It is very exotic and cool. It is something that I think will be desirable in game, but not for 45 USD. I think slightly more, and you can get yourself a very nicely equipped ship that actually has a quantum drive, or like we just talked about, the MPUF cargo, the MPUF personnel are all in this category. That being said, vehicles are very overpriced. It would definitely be something that's interesting to me of buying in game. I'll probably have a couple Noxes, just I will buy them in game eventually. But you could use it as a stepping stone to have fun now and stock it away inside a ship. If it crunches down pretty good, it gets small when it's put away. Okay, on to the Prowler. The Prowler is very overpriced at 440 USD price point. It is quite expensive. One of the frustrations I have with the Prowler is there's a lot of folks who kind of I feel that this ship has to be good. When it first came out, it was basically killing a lot of things in the game that it shouldn't have been able to 1v1, and basically they nerfed it a little bit. I think it's going to come back a decent bit once the armor's realized. It is a stealthy vessel. It is something that's not going to be heavily protected, but I think it should be able to take a few hits and be able to have its signature brought back down to a level that is acceptable for a vessel that's supposed to be able to sneak around. Now, the artwork that you see like hints at the propulsion. of the vessel is going to be able to kind of go into this hover mode or and whatnot. It is kind of interesting. It has air dams on the sides of the vessel, like these shielded air systems that you can jump through, your troops can jump through. And it is stated to be very expensive alien technology that all ships will not have. Some will, some won't. Now, currently, if you open a door on a ship facing vacuum or low grav with limited atmo or no atmo, nothing happens to the people inside that aren't wearing a full spacesuit. However, in the future, the opening of that door will expose them to the climate that's outside unless there is these air shield dam systems, which the Prowler has on both sides of the ship. And one of the other cool things about it is when it's put into landed mode, these large fins that are almost like eagle feathers, I guess I'd call them, come out the sides to kind of give a defensive position to the people jumping off the ship. So if there's a drop team going in, this ship would land on the ground, the troops would jump out of their stand-up chair things and grab their weapon and run out the side doors and proceed to the defensive like these feather type things that are come out the side of the engine cowlings, and that would give them an ability to kind of have a defensive spot to fight from until the Prowler takes off again and attempts to help out. The Prowler has underslung front-facing weapon systems, and I think this is a pretty cool ship. I would note that the Valkyrie is more meant to be a kind of a support vessel, so it drops off like up to 20 people, not even counting the vehicles. And then on top of that has those remote turrets, has side facing turrets that through its doors. But the Prowler is a much lower profile, and in the future, I think its IR and its EM signatures will be significantly lower. So I think this is interesting that the Prowler and the Valkyrie have such different paths, and the Prowler does not have as many seats, nowhere near as many. You could probably squeeze in about half those type of people than you can on a Valkyrie, not counting the vehicles in the Valkyrie. But it is an interesting ship. It has a lot of potential. It's a beautiful looking vessel. And yeah, maybe it'd be more fair to compare it to the Legionnaire, but I mean, the Legionnaire is 4 times less in cost. So it's kind of hard to compare them. But yes, the Prowler, the Legionnaire, the Valkyrie, the Legionnaire being the docking class vessel that is designed to hack and then dock or breach with charges into a enemy ship in atmo or in space, and then attempt to dock with them. But it does have that ability to have a drop ramp, just the same as a Prowler has its side doors, so you will be able to do land-based things as well. So out of the many, I would say that Prowler is probably the least valuable unless you find yourself as like a PMC, like a private military corps, or some other type of group that just constantly wants to do drops, constantly wants to have fun like that, and is willing to dedicate that level of your budget of what you're spending into one ship. I believe it's an in-game buy, and you're going to hear me say that a few times, but you won't hear me say it about this ship. The Railen is next. The Railen is a beautiful, beautiful cargo hauling vessel with 4 thrusters that have change of directional abilities when the system deploys. Like there's these armored wings basically that can move. It can move from a VTOL capacity to a forward-facing capacity, or I should say, rear-facing capacity, because the thrusters are pointing backwards. To give you more energy forward, and has a very nice turret coverage. The 2 turrets on the left and the 1 turret on each side. That's a dual turret. Being on both sides gives you very nice coverage of the ship, and also, if we believe that the rails that are on the sides of the Railen and then go around to the top are part of the tractor beam kind of coverage, it actually has very good tractor beam coverage as well, and it better, because when this ship finally rolls out, this very interesting Xi'an Tech ship will need to have the ability to pull cargo out of its external facing cargo bays. Now these triangular bays actually have square cargo grids inside of them, so don't be deceived by that, thinking you're going to need some special equipment or it's going to kill the space of the ship, etc. You will be able to take standardized cargo of the correct sizes and put it into the Railen. Now you pay for that though with safety. the ship's cargo grids, those triangles, are not heavily armored. They're very basic level of armor on each cargo grid. So while the ship itself can defend itself quite well and has good range on those turrets, it will have an issue of if somebody strafes it with a big enough size gun, you may have a problem of some of your cargoes can be floating into space. So I think that's an interesting side note of this ship. There is a multi-tier internal of this ship, and that has, interestingly, Xi'an and human-based facilities on board, and has a Gravlev-style elevator system. I think as a mid-size cargo hauler, this ship is very fun to compare to the Connie Taurus. This ship being able to haul more, but cannot haul vehicles, and also cannot haul internally the cargo, and is not meant for smuggling either. The Taurus having that small bay in the back of 6 SCU of extra space to kind of sneak something into. Now, that's not realized in game yet, but eventually that will be shielded from some form of scanning. They have yet to confirm what level of scanning, etc. Is it from just NPCs? Can players also not be able to see the expensive secret cargo you're trying to carry? And the point is, the Railen's not meant for that kind of mission. This is something you wear on your sleeve. You have external-facing cargo that everyone will be able to see once it's tractor beamed in and out of there. And yeah, I think it's a very viable ship for 225 USD. And if you're looking to dip your toe into the alien worlds, the Railen's a very cool ship, and I think it's a very nice buy in the store, really. Up next, the Santok Yai. The Santok Yai is another alien fighter. It's a medium class, and it has the capabilities of a nice amount of VTOL, where the engines can turn directly downwards, a lot like the other ships that we've talked about, quite a few of them. And I don't have a lot of experience taking a look at this ship or considering it, but it has very decent-sized guns that point forward. APOA is not going to treat you wrong. I think for 220 USD, I would go with the Defender, but that's because I'm very biased. I have a lot of hours in the Defender and have done a lot with it. And I appreciate the Defender's capacity to kind of empower like a co-pilot to enjoy hanging out with you, especially if you're giving somebody just a ride or something. It gives them a space to actually do things and see what's going on, and has excellent visibility for both players. So I would highly recommend the Defender, unless you're by yourself a lot, in which I would take a look at the Santok Yai if you like the weapon loadout better, and the stylings of APOA compared to the Banu, interestingly. So take that what you will. On to the Talon and the Talon Shrike. Now, the Talon and the Talon Shrike are at the 115 price point, the Talon being the gunboat and the Talon Shrike being the missile boat. Out of the two, I appreciate the bevy of missile tech that the Talon Shrike brings to the table, and I think it's one of the better buys I would recommend. At this price point, though, both of them are fantastic vessels. Honestly, these to me represent a light version of what like the Ares Inferno and the Ares Ion are. Although to be fair, yes, I know the Ion being a laser-based system, an energy-based system, not a missile boat, but I kind of see them in the same way. If you like the big guns and the strong strength of ballistics, look hard at the Talon, and I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. If you like the idea of standoff type weaponry and strategic type of things like that, and bringing a truckload of missiles to the table while still being in a small form package, the Talon Shrike is much more interesting. So, you know what kind of playstyle you are. If you're the kind of person who went to the Inferno, look hard at the Talon. If you're the person that's like the Ares Ion and you want to be the support player for your group, or just basically bring something that most ships can't, the Talon Shrike. Now, I feel obligated to mention that the Lancer MIS will eventually get its Golden Pass, a lot like the rest of the Freelancer series, and that the Freelancer MIS is a fantastic missile boat and has a large amount of missiles, but it is a larger ship. It may not be able to keep up if you're traveling around with a pack of light fighters or something, or light and mediums, I should say. So just keep that in the back of your mind too. It's really your playstyle, what you're really looking for, and also what's available. At the moment, we're talking about Alien Week, and that's what we're going to do, dang it. So it's very exciting. I'm glad that they didn't try to do different days for these ships. That really caught my eye, that they basically just laid all the cards on the table on the same day. It's greatly appreciated. at least when it comes to the Aliens offerings, are limited to at least at the moment. Now, there is a limited time bundle that's at 251 USD that has the Defender, the 4 different paints for the Defender, and also a collectible pin set. Now, I would mention that most of the time when you order physical merchandise from the store, bear in mind there is a shipping cost. So it may not be worth it to pick this up if you're considering shipping to your country is expensive, or if you just you don't want to pay a shipping for one item. So if you're going to pick this up, I would probably recommend picking up something else as well, like a shirt or a mug or something else to really warrant the shipping cost. Another thing to think about is that the paints add a lot of cost to it. Each one of those paints is 11 USD, except for Stormbringer, that's 750 USD. And that's a lot of money for just paints. I think that the paint that would interest me the most is the brand new paint. Basically, the colored paints that they've been teasing out for a while now are very exciting. And to me, like the paints that catch my eye are either the Platinum, which is one of the older paints, if I remember correctly, or the brand new one, the Harmony. So both of those are 11 USD. You could just buy one paint if you want to be done with it. That's probably what I'm going to do myself, is just pick up the Harmony paint and use it on my Loner Defender for my Bounty Merchantman. So just some thoughts. You can buy the pins separately. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the store sale, you can see that they have the pin set. Take a good hard look at the Railen, by the way. That's one of the most detailed things that we have on the Railen, is that pin there. Because I believe that it's going to be very close to that look. They would have to commit to a certain look of the ship if they're going to go get pins done, which will take months to come back and get into physical inventory and then ship out to customers. I believe that it's very close to what we're going to get delivered to us. So there's actually some pretty interesting little insights we can get from these to see like where these ships are going, even the ones already in the game or ones that we've seen tons of concept art on. And included also in the pin set is your Esperion Talon, the Vandal Glaive, the Poa Khartu-Al, and the Banu Defender. Of course, the Railen. So the Katak Railen is from a young company. From that company, it's the only thing we've got from Katak so far, and they're considered one of the youngest houses of the alien cultures. So I think it's interesting to see like what they're going to come up with next. I can't wait to see more tech from Katak and see where we're going. The Alien Week Collection Pack is a Warbond pack that you can get that includes a Talon and a Talon Shrike for 250 USD. I believe that that's one of those, if you can't make your mind up and you have a lot of budget to throw at it, more accurately cash, because Warbond only, I think that that's a nice pack if you're really, really into fighters and you want two different types of variable fighters. I think that they're interesting, but you better be really into alien tech. And then finally, if you are in the Chairman's Club, aka Concierge, you can see the Alien Complete Pack 2952. And there's a Warbond at 2650 USD and 2950 USD for the non-Warbond variant. Now, on the non-Warbond variant, you still get LTI on everything in the pack. And one of the interesting things to me on this pack is... the interesting thing to me in this pack is that I'm biting my lip a little bit trying to say it. There's a lot of fighters. So I would use this pack only if you're absolutely fervently, I'm only into alien ships. I don't see this as, especially if you're doing it as a credit buy, I don't see this as a great deal. I think the Banu Merchantman is interesting, but I look at the Railen, I look at the Merchantman with LTI. I think, hey, I could CCU to those. The Defender, maybe, but I just don't see it. I think you're going to be looking at that kind of cash. There's a lot of other things you could look at. Don't forget, IAE is only a few months away. The thing about these sales is there's no really fear of missing out. The end of the year is close. And, we start that beat starts drumming around December for IAE. I think you could do better than that type of pack. Unless this is absolutely everything you've dreamed of, and every one of those ships is solid to you, or maybe just one you're willing to CCU off of. Then sure, I get it, but especially if you're blessed enough to have that available to you, great. Okay, so the upgrades. I couldn't get this to run earlier, but I managed to get it running now. So let's take a look. So if I take a look at the Warbond edition of the Merchantman, I simply can see that we are talking about a deal of $50 less USD on the Merchantman. So that puts it at a 550 price point. I think that's still a good deal. I know it's not as good as everyone else. I know if you're sitting on different types of Discords or you're looking at pages of what your workmates are saying on the forums, I get it. I get it. Yes, at one point the Merchantman was 250 USD and it was the greatest deal ever. I get it. But still, it will go up again. There is no question in my mind this ship will not stay at 600 value. It just can't for everything it does, unless suddenly they have a ton of different stuff. And I may eat my words today. There is an ISC coming out about the Merchantman about the Merchantman that is this week. So this is not something you have to do this moment. You got a whole week to figure this out and think about your options and consider what you really want to do. And that video may help you sway your mind about where you want to put your budget for your fleet. Also, talk with your org mates. If every single one of you has a Merchantman, that's probably a bad idea. Okay? So just bear that in mind, that specialties are a thing. You're going to want somebody with a Nautilus to help remove mines or add mines to protect, and gun turrets to protect mining operations, or your cargo areas on outposts, for example, just outside of outpost in the atmo above them. You're going to want to consider having an M2 or a C2 to be able to help haul things out, or multiple of those variants, or in Liberators. You're going to need that kind of organizational logistics backbone that can enter atmo. That's going to be a critical thing. And that, to me, is one of the interesting subcapacities of the Merchantman. Because it has such a large cargo grid, it can kind of fill that role well. So if you've already got an M2, I would consider CCUing from an M2 to a Merchantman. That is it's not a bad idea. And this ship brings a lot more to the table, but it also has a bigger target on its back. People will look at this ship and think wealth. People will look at this ship and think, I hope it's undercrewed. Maybe I can take it. Maybe I can hurt it. So bear that in the back of your mind too. But I do see this ship having a place. I see this ship as a fascinating vessel. And I honestly see it as one of the best gems of the entirety of the Alien Week available ships. So take that what you will. And do remember, even though it might be difficult to get, it will be buyable in-game, just like every other ship we talk about. So that's honestly my perspectives on Alien Week. I think there's one other Warbond. I never end these cleanly. But that's how it works, I guess. The Prowler, which is at the 440 price point, has a 410 USD Warbond variant. I still think it's a buying game unless you're a hardcore PMC. So that's it. Okay. Thank you for sticking around if you made it this far. This has been a video I kind of put together. I love alien tech. I hope it didn't come off as I didn't. I myself have a few. I love my Banu Merchantman. I will be buying a Defender in-game, and I really, really cannot stress how much I like that Defender. I'll probably have more than one, and I'll leave them at different stations and different systems, likely when the game's finally realized fully. And I can't stress enough how I'm not exactly a fighter pilot in this game. Ironically, in other games, I really enjoy it, like in War Thunder and such, and a little bit dabble my feet in DCS in VR. But in this game, for whatever reason, I have not really been able to really realize having 1v1 capacity in a fighter. I tend to like larger ships, I tend to like medium or large class ships, and I tend to drag along a couple org mates and friends, and we kind of have a romp around, taking turns in each other's ships, blowing stuff up, having a good time, doing little missions of delivering large amounts of goods, and praying to the 30k gods that be that we don't get a 30k. And I gotta tell you, that's what I have fun with right now. That may change yet again in the future. I did enjoy Arena Commander when there was more of a population. I think with the new 3.17.2 that's coming up, we will have a lot of interesting moments and capacities that we haven't realized yet with small craft like fighters. And what I'm alluding to is the fights that were going to be had inside Innovation Park at Orison. there will be a need for pilots to be able to take us back and forth the platforms, you know, your Brushwoods and your Zelensky, and whatnot. You know, the fight starts with you coming in on a shuttle. The fight ends with Pisces and shuttles desperately moving back and forth under AA fire to the other platforms to take out the pirates. Or if you're the pirates, valiantly defend it. Sure, why not? And the way it works is you start with an FPS. Your people take the AA platform, take the defenses offline, and then the fighters can swoop in. And also Pisces spawn on the grid once the fight is that far along. So that's what we saw in the PTU test. I don't have any secret information. I have heard through the rumor mill that it is apparently going to EVO very, very soon. But that's just rumors. Take that what you will. As soon as it's in PTU, when I can get my hands on it, I will gladly recover that and talk about that. But this is just a little bit of talk about it might be a good idea to have your small craft capacities, like landing small craft under fire, being able to move quickly with them, and organize your org mates to kind of remember to sit before you take off, so you don't accidentally get some crime stats. Might be a good idea. And it might also be a good idea to kind of brush up on using flares and chaff, and so your countermeasure technologies, and not overuse them. And also, of course, tracking other small craft and maybe shooting them out of the sky might not be a bad move, because that's what I'm doing myself. We're kind of toying around with Pisces. I can't help but think the CIG's challenge to do that rally race around Horizon during Fleet Week was kind of like a primer to get people ready for the FPS gameplay and the need to move those Pisces back and forth between the platforms. Something in the back of my mind kind of sees it. Like, you know, you kind of see the dots kind of connecting. But I don't think it kind of lined up perfectly with what they were thinking. I think they need a little more time to polish it. And also the Free Fly had a lot of players in the game, more than the servers could handle at the moment, it seemed, reliably anyway. And I can't wait to see what the event is going to have for us once it's all nice and polished and we have a steady amount of players that can play. Alrighty, that does it. I wish you all a wonderful day and stay safe.